Good evening. You're watching Left, Right and Centre on the show tonight. It's Ramdev's turn to fast against corruption, but does he have the credibility to lead an anti-corruption movement? Also, can Parliament move beyond confrontational politics? Can there be a meeting point between the government and the opposition? I'm Nidhi Razdan. Those are the big debates over the next 60 minutes. First, the headlines tonight. A Delhi court has rejected the anticipatory bail of ex-Haryana Minister Gopal Kanda in the suicide of air hostess Geetika Sharma. Police teams search for the absconding MLA, but serious questions are raised on whether the police went soft on him, allowing him to escape. The government promises a bill on the 22nd of August on the contentious issue of reservations for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes for promotions in government jobs. The demand has been strongly raised by Mayawati, with her party disrupting Parliament on the issue today. The former DGP of Haryana, SPS Rathore, who was in jail for molesting teenager Ruchika Girotra, will have his pension restored. That's on the orders of the Punjab and Haryana High Court, but it is provisional, subject to the outcome of his appeal in the Supreme Court against his conviction. The new Home Minister really gets off on the wrong foot. He's forced to apologize after snapping at MP Jaya Bachchan, telling her that Assam is not a film issue but a serious matter. That's after she interrupted him during the Assam debate in the Rajya Sabha.
अरे सुनो बहन, मेरी बहन प्लीज सुनो मेरी बहन, जरा सुनो, ये बहुत चिंता का विषय है, ये फिल्म का विषय नहीं है, जरा सुनिए.
And now it's just over 2 hours between Delhi and Agra. The new Yamuna Expressway is finally open. Well, let's get straight to our top political story. First, Parliament has already got off to a confrontational start with that now infamous row over Advani's comments on the UPA government and Sonia Gandhi's uncharacteristically aggressive reaction. But the question is, can this session move beyond this kind of politics? The opposition is armed with a long list of issues to attack the government with, but with 31 important bills pending, can any real business get done? Sandeep Phukan has more.
Parliamentary reporters often borrow cliches to describe politics around them. One such cliche is monsoon session beginning on a stormy note. We saw ample evidence of that yesterday on day one, when opposition and ruling benches sparred with each other over the issue of Assam violence. But what was uncharacteristic was the response of Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, the UPA chairperson and Congress president. Once Mr. Advani made a controversial remark regarding the legitimacy of UPA 1 government and the trust vote, it was clear that Mrs. Gandhi would not take it lying down. It was aggression for aggression until the time Mr. Advani retreated and withdrew his controversial remarks. But it's quite clear that the opposition will wait for the right time to return fire, and the right time could be as early as next week. Two controversial CAG reports are likely to be tabled. One regarding the functioning of coal ministry, another regarding the Delhi airport. Draft reports of both these ministries have already been leaked and in the public domain, but the opposition would wait for these reports to be tabled on the floor of the House, and once they are officially released, the opposition is sure to mount an all-out pressure. The other issue that they are really looking to raise is the role of is the 2G scandal and the role of former Finance Minister Mr. P. Chidambaram, who's back at the helm of affairs in the Finance Ministry. So all in all, as days progress, it's quite clear that for Parliament, monsoon has just begun, and we are sure to witness many more storms.
So even though Sandeep doesn't sound very optimistic, we're asking whether Parliament can move beyond confrontational politics for the rest of this session. Right now we're joined by BJP MP and editor of the Pioneer newspaper, Mr. Chandan Mitra. We have senior journalist Bharat Bhushan with us in the studio. We'll be joined shortly by Ashwini Kumar, Union Minister, and Mohammad Salim of the CPM. Mr. Chandan Mitra, let me ask you, I mean, you know, it didn't exactly get off to a great start in Parliament yesterday, though we've seen much more constructive debate and discussion taking place today. But do you think it's going to be a difficult, stormy session? Are you still planning to go after the government or go after Mr. Chidambaram? Or do you think it can be more constructive than it has been in the recent past?
Well, whether it will go down as a constructive session in which a lot of legislative business was conducted, that depends on the government. Because the fundamental responsibility of conducting Parliament smoothly rests with the government of the day. And therefore, I think if the government adopts a more conciliatory and I would say reaches out conciliatory note and reaches out to the opposition, including the smaller parties, there is no reason why Parliament will not run. See, there is a conception in the media that MPs are out there, they assemble every morning with the intention of disrupting Parliament. I can tell you that is not the case at all. And even as far as yesterday's confrontation was concerned, ultimately your correspondent was describing stormy start to monsoon session being a cliche. Yesterday was more a storm in a teacup than a storm, because after all it was about 15 minutes that the disruption happened, and then it was business as usual. We broke the tradition of the first day being a non-working day. In fact, first day always some disruption or other leads to Parliament getting adjourned. It did not happen yesterday. So very constructive discussion in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and today also, I mean, both houses transacted a fair amount of business.
Because you said that it's the onus is on the government to reach out to the opposition, and one example of that in recent days before Parliament began was actually Mr. Chidambaram, the new finance minister, meeting senior opposition leaders, including Mr. Advani, to ensure, I guess, perhaps that bills are passed, that things go smoothly. The BJP has been targeting Mr. Chidambaram in the past. Would you appreciate that he has tried to reach out? Does that mean you're going to hold back the fire against him?
Just going and meeting a few leaders is not reaching out. See, there is a difference between that and reaching out. Mr. Chidambaram's case is quite different. Mr. Chidambaram, in the last session, on the Aircel Maxis issue and Mr. Chidambaram's alleged involvement in that, there was very serious kind of disturbances in the House, and it was promised that on the very first day of the monsoon session, the government will respond and have a discussion on this subject. Now, that time Mr. Chidambaram was not the finance minister, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee was. And we were expecting Mr. Pranab Mukherjee would be impartial, and since it did not involve him personally. It was, now we have a piquant situation where the accused, that's namely Mr. Chidambaram, is supposed to kind of clear his own name in the House. This is really a problematic one. I believe, at least, that not Mr. Chidambaram, but the Prime Minister should clarify the matters relating to Mr. Chidambaram. Okay. We have every right to raise the issue, but this has nothing to do with the legislative business, which is a different kettle of fish, and I expect a constructive approach from the government, and we will cooperate.
Mr. Bhushan, you've been watching Parliament so closely, and over the last couple of years it's actually become more and more confrontational, the politics. We've seen an entire session that was wiped out over the fight over whether there should be a JPC into the whole 2G issue. Do you think it will be any better this time, or is this a deceptive start to the session?
I'm not against the opposition opposing the government. If they had not obstructed Parliament, would you have had a JPC on the telecom scam?
Which is true.
So to say that confrontation by itself is bad is not something that I accept as a Democrat. I think it's all right. You can confront the government, and the government should, for example, be confronted on what's happened in the coal block allocation scam. It should be confronted on why people are still paying usage fee and airport development fee if this person or this company which built the airport was really the lowest bidder. Clearly, that bid was something was wrong with it. Otherwise, why are you still charging us after having built the airport? So these are issues
on which... Is it right to disrupt Parliament, though?
No. I was just coming to that. Confrontation is all right, but it should happen in a manner that doesn't lead to Parliament being disrupted. You can make your point without going into the well of the House, without tearing up papers, without not letting other people speak. So you should hold the government accountable by confronting it, but in a manner that Parliament continues to function. And I don't see that happening.
But do you, the point that Chandan Mitra made about the onus really being on the government to reach out, do you think that that's changing? The way that Mr. Chidambaram went, we've not heard of him doing this before, meeting opposition leaders like that, or is it, as Chandan Mitra said, not enough? Merely meeting a few leaders isn't enough.
I agree with Chandan. Reaching out doesn't mean, going and having a cup of tea with the, opposition leaders. It basically means working with them on planning the business of the House, on accepting what will be debated, what will not be debated, whether the House will be disrupted or not, how to prevent disruption of the House. Also briefing the opposition on various things that the government wants to do. This government particularly has not been reaching out to the opposition. There's been a tradition in this country. Well, that's what the allies say, but I'm saying there's been a tradition of in coalition government. I'm not a great supporter of the BJP, but the fact is that the Vajpayee government reached out to the opposition on major issues they would have informal briefings. They would call the leaders of the opposition in the two houses, brief them about issues. That has not been happening enough in this government.
Mohammed Salim, what are the key issues for the left in this parliament session?
Now, first of all, our democracy is a representative one, and naturally the condition of the society is to be reflected in the parliament. So we are not passing through a very peaceful time, and you have slowdown in the economy, your recession is looming large, unemployment, price rise, communal violence. Assam was waiting for a month to seeking the attention of the central government and the state government. The victims are suffering in the refugee camp. So naturally, Parliament in monsoon session, there must be some thunders and storms, but that doesn't mean that you shift from the main issue. When the non-issues come and take it on, then that's our objection. So there are important issues related to the common man's pleas, and then there are issues concerning the country's interest, and naturally the economic situation, the question of price rise, these have to be debated. Now, as far as economic issues are concerned, the finance minister is always there to reach out to the BJP. When we have the NDA government, that time also they were trying to reach out to the Congress, because there is some kind of unanimity between the two major formations, BJP and Congress.
You're saying they don't reach out to the left the same way, if they do reach out?
Not on the economic issues. When you say about the pending bills, we have records. The record shows that there are occasions when government passed bills after bills in one hour, 4 or 5 bills were passed. And there are bills like Lokpal bill pending for decades together. So you tell that there are hundreds of bills. Normally in our post-independent India, scores of bills are lying because there are many bills which government is not interested to pass. Just they wanted to hoodwink, so they just introduce and keep it on the list.
Let me get Mr.
And there are bills which government want to pass.
Mr. Ashwini Kumar, Union Minister, joins us now on the program. Mr. Kumar, before you came on, the opposition has basically made the point that the onus has been on the government to try and ensure that Parliament functions for consultations. They're not satisfied that Mr. Chidambaram tried to reach out to the opposition by meeting senior BJP leaders before the session began. Do you think that the onus is as much on the opposition as well, or the greater responsibility does lie with you?
Well, I'm not surprised that this is the case which is now